morning, good evening, and good afternoon. Thanks for joining us today. This session will be starting soon. Let's wait about a minute for people to join in. Before we get started, maybe have some icebreaker. I thought about one question, and you will see there's a chat button under your screen. Feel free to leave your message on the chat to share with us. All right, here's the icebreaker question. If you only allowed to have one apps on your phone, what app's gonna be? I can go first, and Albert, I might ask you for second. So for me, I thought the calendar apps is most important for me. If I lose my calendar, I have no idea what's my plan. No, that's include the home, my family, my work, my kids, everything. So I think, okay, that's important. All right, everyone, if you just join it, we have some quick icebreaker. The question is, if you only allowed to have one app on your phone, what app's gonna be? Feel free to leave your message on the chat. All right, same question to you, Alberto.
I was also gonna say my calendar thing, but now that you took it, I think I'll say my the watch, the clock. Like I couldn't live without a clock. I don't wear a watch, so I would really need it. So I don't know if that counts as an app, but that's the one I would use.
You can choose a calendar too. I saw
Yes,
Daniel said my test apps, ChatGPT.
ChatGPT.
Yes. I think it really also depends your location, right? I used to live actually, I just chat with Alberto, and he used to also live in Boston. I lived in Boston for a while. I think
Yeah,
there was apps for the train schedule and the bus schedule. I forgot the name like a couple years ago, but that's like essential for me. I was a student. Every day I have to check the schedule. I can't miss that train. I can't miss the bus. So I think
right.
that's by that time it's most important apps for me. Yeah. My
Makes sense.
custom Mapbox based apps. Mark, next time maybe show and tell you can share with us. All right, I think let's get this started.
Great.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Again, thanks for joining us today. We are very excited to have our guest speaker, Alberto. He is from MIT Silver Data Design Lab. He's a research associate there. Before we get started, I have quick notes. Just quick housekeeping item. All build sessions are recorded, including this session, so you should be able to watch after the session's done. Captions are available in multiple language, so feel free to choose. If you got questions, feel free to submit your questions through the Zoom Q&A features, so Alberto will be able to see it. Lastly, if you want to discover more build sessions, and we also have another day tomorrow, last day, feel free to take a look at the Zoom event lobbies. All right, it's all for my logistic. I'm gonna get into the good stuff. All right, thank you, Alberto. I'm gonna just handle it over to you to kick things off. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Bing. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, and I'm gonna start by saying that I'm really excited to be here. We are super happy to be featured in the Mapbox Build Developers Conference this year. And oops. And my name is Alberto. I'm coming on behalf of a big group. First of all, led by Professor Sarah Williams. She leads the Civic Data Design Lab and the Leventhal Center for Advanced Urbanism at the School of Architectural Planning at MIT. And again, I want to thank everyone at Mapbox, especially to Chris Wong for including us in this event. Using maps and data visualizations can increase impact in policy and empower communities to act. For example, with the World Food Programme, we mapped migration risks in Libya, where over 40% of migrants came from West Africa. By visualizing their journeys, we showed where they became most vulnerable and food insecure. In New York, we documented inequities in how streets, sidewalks, and parks are designed and accessed. The project empowers New Yorkers with data about disparities in health, resilience, and mobility, and offer solutions that can be implemented quickly at a local level. We also visualize Central American migration pathways. Our findings were presented at a US congressional hearing and cited in a letter signed by 33 senators using humanitarian action. Maps and data can directly influence policy at highest levels. But empowerment doesn't only come through government hearings. It can come from something as simple and essential as commuting. In most cities around the world, the daily commute begins not with a schedule, but with a question. Where does this bus go? For the billions who rely on popular transport systems, like minibuses, tuk-tuks, shared vans, or repurposed school buses, that question is a daily leap of faith. These systems exist in most places. No official data exists, not even a map. As a result, navigating them requires constant negotiation, deep local knowledge, and often the help of other riders, other drivers, or simply by word of mouth. The Atlas of Popular Transport shows what happens when that changes, illustrating how 16 cities across Africa, Asia, and Latin America took advantage of a unique convergence of forces. The failing cost of smartphones, the rise of open source tools, and most importantly, the determination of local actors who believed their cities deserved better and decided to develop data and maps of how their semi-formal, quote-unquote, informal, popular transport systems operate to improve transport policy and provide greater access to these essential resources. This is where the Atlas started a few years ago, in a project led by Professor Williams in Nairobi, Kenya. Nairobi suffers from severe congestion, as you can see in the video. In this project, the team collaborated with the University of Nairobi, with the computer science department, to develop an application that collected data on routes and maps and stops. As the data came in, we wanted to visualize the system so everyone could have access to the data and use it for planning or for moving across the city. As we develop the map, we ask ourselves whether visualizing these systems could cause any harm. We teamed up with stakeholders in the community, including bus drivers who helped us edit the maps as seen in the image and learn that making these systems more visible could help with developing transport policy in Nairobi. However, you can imagine in other cities in Africa where exposing these systems might cause government crackdowns and therefore removing an essential infrastructure. In fact, several cities asked us to make these maps, and we refused because the potential harm that developing these maps might cause. It is the first informal transit navigable on Google Maps, and we hope there will be even more and more. We have worked together to develop this new technology a few years back, these new processes. We developed classes and workshops with the community. And since then, we have had several workshops with that community on issues related to the matatus and the systems. And today, 5 mobile applications use the Nairobi dataset as their base. Semi-formal transit, popular transit, provides mobility around the world, not only in Nairobi, but the majority of cities outside the US and Europe use these systems. And many of these cities have followed the lead of Nairobi. Amman, for example, used our tools to create a data set of their own system. So has Managua, with a similar story. So this became a network. This network has become so large that we have started to fundraise for a research center for the development of transit data. This center helps those interested in collecting data to capture it. Determine ways to use it for important planning initiative, including the development of maps. We help connect players with important policy networks and funders for projects in their cities. And we teach them how to make their work scalable rather than one-off initiatives. So together, these efforts from a network of more than 50 cities working, we're sharing the efforts from a network of more than 50 cities working to make the invisible visible. And for the first time, we're showcasing 16 of these cities together at the 2025 Venice Biennale. The Atlas of Popular Transport is just not data. It's an exhibition of maps, stories, and voices from across the global south. Visitors could immerse themselves in the streetscapes of this city. And understand how community data changed the daily commuting and livelihoods of popular transport. Each time a visitor opened a drawer, the standby video from the back turned into a specific video of a streetscape of that specific city. For the physical atlas, we interviewed the 16 groups that developed these projects on their cities. The atlas amplifies their stories. For example, Cairo's story. Let me zoom into that one in particular. When Transport for Cairo started, they weren't just building a database. They were building public infrastructure, a shared understanding of how the city moves. They made a deliberate choice to put women at the center of the research, both as users and as field workers. That shifted who gets to see the system and who gets to shape it. Teams of young researchers with GPS phones and transit apps wrote hundreds of routes that had never been surveyed. What used to be guesswork became plannable. The takeaway is that visibility gives agency. When writers and officials can see the same network, you can do real planning instead of just planning by word. On this slide, you're seeing a movement at 7:30 a.m. on the right side, right? The movement over a satellite image. On an everyday peak, right? Like a commuting peak. And you overlaid GTFS data. The panel on the bottom right shows indicators that are rarely seen in popular systems, like share of daily users, time spent, income burden, etc. This is the language of policy now applied to the system that most people actually use. So one of the key messages is the data didn't just describe Cairo. It's in a way changing Cairo's transport policy, guiding corridors, interchanges, and other transport conversations. That's what happens when a city's entire ecosystem, from heavy rail to lone motor taxis, lives in the same data model. Oops. Sorry. Cairo is just one among many stories. In Dhaka, the first bus map emerged from a transport strike, a moment of crisis that catalyzed collaboration. In Santiago de los Caballeros, routes were recharted with women and blind riders, so the map reflects who actually travels. In Cape Town, the network informed COVID-19 responses, getting essential workers where they needed to go. So we find a pattern. Local teams plus open tools equals policy relevant maps in places that had never had one. Each city has had its own challenge, its own voices, and its own stories. Under the hood, this runs on open standards and very familiar tools like Mapbox Studio, GL, GTFS for feeds. We validate and version the data and DeckGL for the over Mapbox over visualization. What's hard isn't drawing the lines. It's the workflow, the processes, and the methods. Community data collection, quality checks, merging formal and popular systems, and then publishing it in formats planners and audiences can use. Think of it as a pipeline for transport, popular transport in cities, collecting, cleaning, converting, publishing, and maintaining data sets. But at its core, it's about equity. When commuters can see their system and help shape it, they gain more than directions. They gain dignity and leverage. Developers made the web legible. And together, we can make cities legible. The Atlas of Popular Transport is a manifesto in collective intelligence, the convergence of human insight, technological tools, and the imagination to create data against all limitations. It shows that the knowledge to transform our cities already exists in the hands of those who move through them. It reminds us that the smartest cities are not necessarily the ones with the most sensors. They are the ones built through the hands of the collective vision of its inhabitants. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Alberto. I love those videos and the pictures. Did you travel to those cities?
To some of those cities, yes, yes.
Uh-huh.
I
Wow, that's
personally didn't travel to all of those cities, but for example, I was in Cairo and to make the interview for Mohammed with Mohammed. So yeah, I mean, at some point, I think probably Professor Williams did travel to all of the
mhm.
cities. I want to say she did, but I personally just traveled to some of them. Yeah.
Cool. Everyone, feel free to drop your questions, on the Q&A features. I do have a question, Alberto, for you. So what's next?
Well, the thing for me right now is that the Atlas right now it's living in the Venice Biennale, right? But this Atlas should travel to all these at least these 16 cities, right? Like people in those 16 cities should be able to see what the other 15 are doing, and they should also be able, well, yeah, I think it would be nice for them to see how these maps started, how the data was collected, to
Mhm.
you know, in my perspective, the natural next step is for the Atlas. The Atlas as a, you know, as an exhibition, as a book, you know, the Atlas as a dialogue should travel to these 16 cities. And yeah, I would say that's the natural next step for the Atlas.
Cool, cool, cool. I might
Yeah.
have one more question before we end this session. So you talk about challenges, milestone there. If there is one thing you would mention, it's like surprise you, you know, during this entire project, what's one thing you could share?
I would say that you know, when people like really organize together, and when they believe, when we believe in you know, in a specific topic, and we believe that we can change our cities, we can learn everything, right? We can learn how to code, we can learn how to get data, we can learn how to process GTFS data. So I think it's very surprising how when there's will, um, we can learn a lot. We can do a lot, but for me, what's nice and what's surprising is that we can open our minds and learn a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, learn from people. Yeah,
Yes,
love that.
yes. Learn from each other.
Hmm.
Right.
I do see the question from Craig. I can read the question. I'm wondering how about the tourists during the routes typically used by locals? Are they are previously, undocumented? How can we be sure they are safe?
As they previously, how can we? It's a great question, you know, and it's true. Most most of the times, these routes are used by locals, not by tourists, right? Um, but of course, when we open this, when we create a map that anyone could use, it becomes tricky, right? But I think in a way, it becomes tricky for someone that's not that doesn't know the system, the popular transport system, right? But I think in a way, connecting these systems, the popular transit and the formal or the traditional transit systems, in a way, um, helps the popular ones. They trans they get, I don't, they get like the benefits of being in a formal or in a traditional network, and the benefits including increased security. And this is not something that we studied or we proved, but in a way we are merging the systems to try to both systems get the benefits from each other, including security. But it's a good next step, right? Like, what are the metrics? Like, what one can we measure and learn from sort of, for in a way, merging these systems, at least merging these systems in a map, right?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alberto. I think we're just on time. Thank you everyone again for joining us today. Hope you enjoying the next build session. Thank you so much, Alberto. It's a
Thank
great
you. Thank you,
presentation.
Bing.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.